the tax business was the hardest business I've ever been involved with. And I think that's why I've said it before. So many of my friends have gone on to do amazing things in franchising because they were part of a really hard business to begin with.
Representing Franchise Secrets, Erik Von Horn.
So as I was reading one of my favorite franchising newsletters from Zach Fishman and Ryan Hicks. This is probably the only one that I really read. Brooke Budke has a great one too, Jeff. What do you what kind of newsletters are you reading these days in and out of franchising?
Yeah, like inside the world of franchising, I think you named the two that like I always open. Like I always open the one that Zach does, and I always open the one that Brooke does. I think that those are great.
Yeah, those are two of my favorites. Were you on the call that we did, on when I was out with my horse, my daughter's horse? I was out in the yard, out in the field.
Yes.
Yeah, because I
Yes.
turned the video around and I freaked you out because I was on the four-wheeler. You kind of got
Wait,
scared.
what was the name?
That's
That's
lose
right.
me.
That's right. I don't like vehicles. I don't like moving vehicles. Especially that they're not inside of like a cage, like a car. What was the name of your horse again?
That was Spud. Spud's in Appaloosa. He's
Spud,
really like
that's right.
Spud.
Spud.
Yeah.
That's a great name for a
Spud's a
horse.
good boy.
Spud.
Yeah.
So
he's
do
a
each
good
of
one.
the
What
girls
we're doing?
do they each
Yeah,
of
they
the
each
girls
have a
have
horse.
one? Man, that's cool.
And they're starting to get older. Some of them are starting to get older, so they're already talking about replacements for them. But yeah, they love these. They love these horses. Horses are pretty cool. But we were out picking up garbage. So we had some big wind come through. We're out picking up garbage. One of my neighbors called me like, all your garbage came into my draw, because we don't have like neighborhoods here. It's like a draw.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I'd never met this person before. I'm like,
what's a draw?
Like
What's
a
a draw mean?
like a canyon,
property
like a
line?
small canyon, like a small canyon, and their house is down below. I'm like, so I apologize, just being the good neighbor, and she was not happy. And I'm like, I'll come pick it up. She's like, well, we got some of your cardboard that came out, and I'm like, no problem, I'll come pick it up. And I get out there with the girls. I'm like, girls, we got to go.
She wouldn't let it go.
No, I'm like, I'll go pick up the cardboard so you don't have to throw it away or recycle it. And we go out there in the truck with my daughters, and I'm, like, hey, we got to go get the cardboard from the neighbor. Well, it wasn't even ours, like it was like this bed, this mattress. And I knew it wasn't ours because it didn't say organic on the box. And my wife is like, organic mattresses, organic this, organic that. And so I'm like, send her a text. I'm like, this isn't ours, is it? She's like, no. So we picked up the trash, but it's a good lesson for the girls. Just like, people are upset. People get mad at you. People are not going to like you. People are going to blame you for stuff. And you just roll with it. You just can't match that negative tone. It's no way to live your life. Dude, we should get to the pod. You ready?
Oh yeah. Yeah, let's do it, man.
All right. I think we were talking about, last time we were talking about, like war stories, this kind of beginning of our journey. So, what were some of the worst things, the hardest days that you remember? The hardest days. And one of the ones for us is, and this was, so I started with Liberty Tax when I was single, and then eventually got married, and my wife Mags was like thrown into the craziness of business ownership. And I remember early on when I cared about the cars that I own. At a BMW. Now we don't have any cool cars. We have a Yukon Denali, so I had a BMW X5 back then in Austin. And I remember having her pick up these marketers, which were people outside waving, and they would we would need to take him from one location to the other. And there's like a 30-minute gap between like downtown East Austin to Round Rock, in the suburbs. And it was, tax season. It's, dark early. And I remember her going like with 4 homeless guys driving 30 minutes by herself. And I look
Oh
back
my
now, I'm like,
God.
what was I thinking? But I thank
Wow.
God there was like one of these guys that was just like always looking out for her, no matter what, just looking out for her in all kinds of ways. And so he was like, looking back, I'm like, that guy, um, you know, was so helpful to us at that time. And this is the same guy that, one time there was a car broken down outside of the tax office, because there's always interesting stuff happening outside of a tax office. So an old car broken down, someone trying to change a tire. My guy in the Statue of Liberty costume goes out to go help this person change a tire. It's jacked up. And then he's out there under the car doing something. And the next thing I know, the car goes just crashes to the ground, and I'm like, oh no, he's gone. And he got out of there just in time. But these are the like this is the type of the world that the tax business is. So we would get up before dark, get home way late, time after time after time, and always
Oh,
going up against deadlines. And I just remember being exhausted. And so now when I think about business ownership, and I'm a big guy, like, work on your business, not in your business. And I was trying to work on my business back then, but it is so chaotic,
yeah.
so aggressive. And you are on all day and all night in that business, because it just doesn't shut off until like, 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. People are in the offices doing things. Break-ins happen, windows get shattered, computers get stolen,
Yeah.
money gets stolen, all kinds of stuff. Those are the things that I remember. But that's what gives me the grit today to, like, you and I sometimes are
Mm.
like, we got to get on a call. We got to do this. We got to fix that. And we get on with our brands or people and just get to work. But I think it's, a lot of that's because of what I learned way back then. What about you?
Remember like
It's easy for you.
around, I just, I really love the holidays. I really love the holidays. Like now that I have a family and it's like that. It's just the fact that it even comes like at the end of the year and just that whole like pre Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving, pre Christmas, Christmas, New Year's Eve, like that, man, that 6 week stretch is just so beautiful and golden. But the scar tissue that I have is really around during the holidays, during that, almost 4 year stretch in the tax business. It just wasn't good. It wasn't good. And like in order to process returns, like every location needed like I think like a P10 or an I10. Do you remember?
I-10. No.
I
I-10, P, I-10 is yeah, not an I-10. That's something different, which
you you the store needed like basically a
a PIN
number
number from the
associated,
government.
a pin number from the government, a pin number from the government. And like we had like, going into the last year, like we had over 1,000 stores and we were responsible as the area developers to make sure that everybody had updated PIN numbers. And so we just were like, we're going to make sure that they have them. And just like that process was just manually doing that. That the other thing too is like at that age, when you that was my first I'd been a business owner before I got into franchising, but like but just on a side thing cuz like I had a sales job when I first got in, but I also kind of had like a side small business that I had started. But like at scale, I had never had a situation where when things break and people are just so angry. I was going to say pissed off. Maybe I should just say pissed off. Like Like just the level of anger when something, you assume that everything, and when you're operating a business, everything's in a vacuum and it's going to run according to plan. But like at that age, I just didn't have the experience to necessarily like troubleshoot some things. And just when something would break, and a lot of times it would be around like the banking connection between the franchisor and the banking solution that you would use to provide the service. Like when that would go down for like one day, and your customers are angry, and all the franchisees in your area in our area of development, which we had over 350 franchisees in over 1,000 locations, like just just the anger that would come at you, and like and feeling helpless that I couldn't solve the problem there, right? And the corporate office wouldn't communicate directly with the franchisees around when these things they would communicate with the area developers, right? And you're trying to hold everybody like, look, I'm trying to get information so that we can get back online here. And like every season, the franchisor would say like everything's been battle tested, we've run through all the systems like top down all around. But every single season there would be 1 or 2 or 3 days where something massive would break in just that overall, like all the things that were systematized and all the different connections. And I mean, it doesn't seem as intricate when you walk into one of these stores. You walk into like an H&R Block. It doesn't seem that intricate, but holy cow, there's a lot going on in the background. Now, I've been out of that industry for so long. My guess, this is also like the early 2000s. Like just the type of tools that are available to operate a business today just simply didn't exist back then.
Yep.
From an operational perspective, from a marketing perspective, I mean, holy cow. Can you imagine having some of the tools for marketing that folks have today back then? How much better, we were just doing old school stuff. But yeah, the everything around needing that PIN number, and it just every Christmas, like even though that's 20 years ago now, even this Christmas, man, it always comes to me, and I'm like, and I just remember, I only had one kid at the time, and maybe my second one was on the way. My second one just turned 20, and I remember my wife around Christmas being like, can you hang out with us? Can you be with us? Can you help wrap presents? Can you do? I'm just like, I can't. Like January 2nd is like right around the corner. Like you don't get that time back, right? But like, I'll tell you, what came out of all of that is when you really become a good problem solver, it's because you can rely on experiences, maybe similar experiences from the past and how you overcame it. Like through time. I mean, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but I'm in my 50s now. I'm still in my early 50s, but I'm in my 50s. And so now I feel like I'm a much better problem solver. And how the time that I take to like diagnose the issue and try to be very thoughtful about, how to pop through it. Because there is a solution for every challenge. There really is. But like back then I didn't have experiences to like lean on. All you have is just, it feels like the whole world is angry with you. And it's not really you, it's just you're their only communication outlet to be able to get something fixed. And just not knowing how long things, when life just seemed indefinite back. Like you can't answer a question. So it's like, somebody would say, hey, we're going to have this back up online in 2 hours. So then you share that with everybody, and everybody's anticipating 2 hours, and 2 hours comes and goes. And they're like, we need a few more hours. It's kind of like when you're at the airport and your plane gets delayed and it's like, now it's going to take off at 11:37. And like, okay, I was supposed to leave at 10:45, but I can make it another hour. And then it gets to 11:37. Now your plane's gonna take off at 2:30. It's just you get frustrated. But like, yeah,
This is where you had to learn, like, this is the customer service. This is where you and I both learn customer service, because it's not only like what you just described, but they were getting large refund checks, refunds that they needed. Some of them like needed it to pay rent. So they're stressed to get their landlord money. They're stressed to, use that refund for something that's really important to them. Not all of them, but a good percentage of them needed that money. And then you have then you're dealing with like what you just described. Sometimes it's your fault, your employee's fault, for doing something stupid when they're printing the checks, or doing, just doing something they shouldn't be doing. Sometimes it's the corporate office's fault because they didn't have the bugs figured out in the software, or whatever it was. They messed up. Sometimes it was the bank's fault because they were getting too stringent on the things that they had the levers to pull. So it was the bank's fault. And sometimes it was the IRS's fault, the government's fault, and why things weren't happening. So there's this whole chain of people or entities involved, and it's somebody's fault. The customer didn't care. It was your fault, Jeff. It was my fault. And
yeah.
you had to learn to, you just try to make them happy and try to do business the right way. And I remember reading the book by Kim Blanchard, Raving Fans, and our goal was to create raving fans. It's like, how do you do this when there's so many different variables? But that's where we learned there's bad things that happen, challenges that come up, things that don't go right, but you had to work on creating raving fans. And not everybody turned out to be that way, but if you could take a bad situation and then you could somehow make it right through, like, however that looks, through communication, through empathy, through making it right some way, that's how you would win. And so that business was so tough. The tax business was the hardest business I've ever been involved with. And I think that's why, I've said it before, so many of my friends have gone on to do amazing things in franchising because they were part of a really hard business to begin with. But yeah, it was customer service is something that I learned. And then also, one of the things that you were saying is being able to take a step back to look at a problem and become a problem solver. And when you are a new entrepreneur, you are having the responsibility of everything, the weight of this business, the success of this business, that weight falls on you, and you are working in the business all the time. You don't have time to think. You don't have time to step away to look at it from a different angle, a different perspective, a different point of view. And you need that to really become a successful entrepreneur. You need that time to think. You need that time to strategize. You need that time to look at it from different perspectives. But if you don't have the reps, you don't understand how important that is, and you don't know how valuable that is, you're just going to continue to run on that hamster wheel and just put out fires.
Attention, franchisors and franchisees. There are two really important resources that I want to share with you that will help you avoid costly mistakes and increase your enterprise value. The first is our free Facebook group. It's a community that has over 4,000 franchisees and franchisors in it. When somebody asks a question, they get honest and authentic answers from multiple perspectives. You can join the group for free over at franchisesecrets.com/Facebook. The second resource I want to share with you is if you're a franchisee and you want to be around a community of successful Z's and other brands and in other industries, this is why I created the Franchisee Mastermind. If you want access to the best single and multi-unit owners to know what they're doing, or if you want to be around other multi-brand owners, then you'll want to check out my Franchisee Mastermind. The reason why people join is they want access to my Rolodex, my connections, to each other. They want a shortcut success, both short-term and long-term. Links will be in the show notes or at scalablefranchise.com.
You're good at strategy, Jeff. You're some of the best at strategy. And so early on, you said you weren't, you didn't have you weren't good at, I'm calling it strategy. When did you start to become more strategic from early entrepreneur, Jeff? What was your evolution to becoming the strategic guy without ChatGPT? You had to use your
Yeah,
brain.
that's right. I mean, for me, I think like just my nature is I'm kind of like a dreamer. And like I mean, I think it comes from like, kind of how I was raised. My mom is just a big dreamer. Like she always challenged me to like think bigger. So like I think of like I don't tend to think of things as I always think of things kind of like indefinite. Like there's no limit. I really truly that's who I am. Is like think bigger. Like if this is the norm, how can we get better? Right? And then I think what comes along with kind of being a dreamer and thinking really big is thr- being strategic is my way of like executing on the dream. So like if you just dream all day and you talk a big game and you can never fill it in, then you don't really have much. But like I am somebody that I really do believe there's an answer for everything in business and all of the challenges. And I want to think really big. And then I want to think like, okay, strategically, like, let's build the roadmap to get there. I mean, we're working on some projects right now where we say, hey, look, there's we know where we want to go, and maybe we're not getting there as fast as we want to get there. So like let's start to deconstruct some things. Let's think bigger than what we thought before, and let's take a different strategic path to get there. I think the other thing around like being strategic is is uh, is identifying like the big pillars. So like if I want to be strategic about a decision or I want to be strategic about building something or getting somewhere, the way I think about it is if you think about a blueprint, think about it in terms of chapters. Like we're working on a project right now where we're deconstructing some things and we're going to build it back bigger, faster, stronger. And so we've anchored this blueprint with certain chapters that are the most critical executing on the plan. And so we've identified, the most critical chapters in the blueprint. And now we're taking the pieces of what lives today and we're just amplifying. So like I'm a big I'm big into like it, but it has to start with like I'm just somebody that I cannot talk about the past more than what I feel is necessary. I just get exhausted. Um, and meaning like I am just a forward thinker. And I do realize, hey, we got to look at the past and we want to make it better in the future. But like I am just somebody that really tries to focus on, okay, let's move forward, let's think bigger, and let's put together the strategic plan to connect those dots. And then you just put it into a workflow.
So I think people are thinking, yeah, as a franchisor, there's a lot of strategy that happens. Let's go to the franchisee level. And they have a playbook. They have the plan that they're supposed to execute on. Where does strategy come in for franchisees?
I think it's the same thing. Like what I would say to franchisees is I think it is so easy to get stuck in the here and now, getting in the weeds. It- and by the way, that's okay. You got to be involved in the business. You have to understand like how it works. So there's never going to be this scenario where you can just sit up in the ivory tower and 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 just think that everything is going to resolve itself. You got to get in the trenches, there's no doubt. But like if you really want to be strategic, you can't be strategic and be in the weeds at the same time.
Mhm.
It's just not possible. It's not possible. And so you got to bring your head up, you got to bring your head up a little bit. And you have to say, okay, Like what can we improve on incrementally? I think so many times it's like, hey, this part's broken, like we need the whole fix. It's like whoever wrote the book, like The Compound Effect. It's just been it's been so instrumental in like how I think. It's like, let's take a bunch of pieces and incrementally improve those on a daily basis. And then once you look at that body of work after a week, a month, a quarter, you're going to be shocked at the impact and the influence of like the compound effect. But you have to know what's important, like what moves the needle in your business. There's never one thing. It's probably somewhere between 5 and 10 things. Some are more important than others, right? But at the end of the day, it's let's look at the data, let's analyze it, and let's improve incrementally all of the key pieces each and every day. And that's being strategic, right? But I think like it's hard. It's hard when you're going through a really big challenge as a franchisee. It's really, really hard. And you do kind of get sucked in, but it's like, hey, okay, let's focus on a strategy that can work for you, for your market, for your team. So
I also think, and we're going to have to wrap it up, but I think you have strategic from an employee standpoint, you need to have the right people in the right seats. So you need to be thinking about that. Also think from a marketing perspective, there are strategic relationships, strategic referral partners. And so if you start to look at marketing through a strategic lens, and the easiest way to do that, see what the top people in your franchise are doing, whether it's new customers, biggest grand opening, biggest whatever, like look at that, and to then start looking at your own area, your own market, your own territory, your own location, and how do I go from where I am here at 50, how do I get to 100? And I think one of the things too is even just look at your how well known are you in your market. We all think people know who we are, what we do, where we are. The reality is you probably are not as well known as you think you are. So the simple test for that is to go around to 10 businesses, one in your center, one of, in the center next to you, and then just continue to go out and say, hey, do you know where the nearest X is? Your business. Where can I get X done? Where can I go to the gym? Where can I go to a tax office? Where can I get this done? And then you start to understand your own market penetration, your own visibility with your own market. And then you can start to put a plan together. How do I get more known in my own local market? And so just local branding. I think that you start to see where you are and then where do you want to be, and measure that every month, every 2 months, every 3 months. And then you can see how you're getting more known locally in your own market. So those are a couple little tips. If I'm a franchisee and I want to do something, I need to think more strategically, get out of the office, just start doing that. And ideas will start to come to you as you start to realize you're not as well known as you think you are. People don't know where you're located, or people are referring your competition more than they're referring you. So that is probably one thing that I would probably do as a franchisee. All right. I got messages going here. We got to go to a call. I've got phone calls. So Jeff, let's wrap it up. See you soon.
hey man, thanks. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Links to everything can be found over at franchisesecrets.com. And if you want my help with anything from starting your own franchise to growing your current franchise business, please visit scalablefranchise.com.